Hi, welcome back. We're going to be working with the pelvic floor again. So you've watched the first video where I took you through a very elementary introduction to the pelvic floor, the areas of contraction, and where the bony landmarks are. And so here I'm going to actually take you through just a quick tutorial of contracting those areas in a quick and easy pelvic floor sequence. So just to review, here's my female pelvis again. So we have our anal sphincter back by the tailbone, we have our vaginal passageway, and we have our urethra, which is up in the front of the clitoris. And so these are the 3 points of contraction in the pelvic floor. We have our pubis bone, our sit bones, and our tailbone, which frame off that diamond-shaped pelvic floor. And then we have, these are our superficial pelvic floor muscles. We have some of our deeper internal pelvic floor muscles. And then remember, we have all of our organs inside. So when our pelvic floor is not strong, our organs don't sit the way that they're designed in their proper places. Just as important as if our pelvis is not in neutral and we're in our body and moving around during the day, our pelvic floor muscles are not beneath us like a basement, nor are the organs inside of us stacked strategically in an upright position. And so we just want to really be aware of how we use our body, and these are just tiny little tweaks that we can take with to really make a big difference. Okay, so we're going to lay down on our back and find a comfortable position where your knees are bent and your feet are a distance away from you that you can't touch your heels. And so just take kind of a nice moment here, take a breath. If you're really tight in the upper body and you find yourself kind of looking backwards at the ceiling, please prop your head delicately just so that your upper body can relax more open and your neck can be in a comfortable alignment. Okay, so we're going to start moving through what's called pelvic tilting. This is a great way to release the lower back and really help you to kind of get involved in the pelvic floor more fully. So on an inhalation, we're going to arc the lower back away from the floor like there's a pin that would otherwise poke me. This is not a hip lift. This is a pelvic tilt. So if I had a bowl of water on my pelvis, I'm going to swoosh the water towards my pubis bone. And then as I exhale, I'm going to swoosh the water towards my navel and feel my lower back go completely flat into the floor without squeezing my glutes. And then inhaling again, I'm going to arc the back. Feels like a nice stretch in my lower lumbar. Feels good. And then exhaling, just gently pressing into my feet, not squeezing the glutes or lifting the glutes. I'm going to tip my lower back flat into the floor. If it's helpful, bring your hands to your pelvis. Pubis bone, fingertips, heels of the hands, hip bones. And I'm just going to swoosh that water in the bowl with my breath. Inhale and pushing down on the pubis bone, arcing the back. And then exhaling, heels of the hands into the hip bones, lower back towards the floor. And so we're moving through what we would call neutral into the two extremes, an anterior tilt when you're arced, and a posterior tilt when you're dropping into the floor. All right, so we're going to start to incorporate now the anal sphincter. So remember, that's back by the tailbone. Inhaling, imagine breathing into your pelvic floor like it was a balloon you were blowing up. And as you exhale, try to engage only in your anal sphincter without over squeezing the glute cheeks. And then relax that out, inhale. And then exhale again, just the anal sphincter, and you might find that this is fatiguing, that these muscles tremble a little bit, or that it's hard to hold. And that's okay, your body's just not used to it. There's a learning curve, we're building. This is about forgiving your body and honoring your body, loving your body where it is right now. And if you're a mom that's had children, you have just brought the most beautiful life into this world. Cut yourself some slack. And again, anal sphincter contracts. You might feel a little bit of belly contraction, and that's okay. So you can just stay with this anal sphincter contraction for as long as you'd like. Stay here, don't progress forward, and just work on this. Because again, some electrical connections are stronger than others, especially if you've had trauma to the pelvic floor. or the core in any way, shape, or form. So again, honoring yourself and treating yourself with respect. Okay, so now we're going to move forward and we're going to try to engage on the vaginal passageway or the perineal line. For men, it's the soft tissue behind the scrotum. So inhaling, relaxing everything out, and then exhaling, focusing on that central passageway. I'm hugging on that tampon, or I'm engaging around the shaft during intercourse, and then I'm releasing that out. And again, exhaling, contracting. I might feel a little bit more, again, front core stimulation. Here's the good news. Let's keep working. When we engage the pelvic floor appropriately, we actually don't have to worry so much about pulling the navel into the spine, because that stimulation will automatically encourage your tubular core, I like to call it, so here, to engage. And then so when we do activate those muscles, it's just that extra little cherry on top. Okay, so we've done anal sphincter, we've done vaginal passageway. Okay, we're trying to do them all individually right now. It's okay if that anal sphincter comes along for the ride. All right, so now we're going to relax that out. We're going to try to work with the urethra point, and I like to just kind of, what is the word I'm looking for, reference that area because it correlates with our bladder, and so we're going to feel that contraction. It's a great visual. It's near the front of the pelvis. This is also about the front lower abdomen contracting. Okay, so if you have a little bit of a poochie issue, you're not working with your pelvic floor. You're not stimulating that area to get into those lower ab muscles. Okay, so inhaling, arcing the back, we're forward by the pubis bone, hug up on that flow of urine, press your feet gently into the floor, and you should feel, not necessarily on the bottom of your core, but on the lower front part of your core. And then inhale, releasing that out. Typically, people can do one or two of them, but then another one is just like out in space somewhere. So please don't be frustrated if you're not getting one area. Remember, your body has been through a lot. It's carried you all the way up to this point. And this is just about reconnecting with your body. When I first started teaching yoga and even core exercises, I was very clueless at how interrelated we needed to be with our body. And it wasn't until I stepped out of this community and really learned the anatomy of the core and really understood how the body worked that I could step back into these exercises, and I kind of saw these missing pieces to really helping people feel the difference when it comes to core work and yoga, and really how everything is a core exercise. So again, when I'm working the urethra point, I'm feeling that lower front core. Okay, so now let's try to encourage and incorporate all three together. So inhale, everything relaxes. Exhale, anal sphincter, perineum, urethra, hold, and then release that out again. And again, anal sphincter, perineum, urethra, kind of like you're rolling something up, and then release it. Anal sphincter, perineum, urethra, hold it, and release it. And notice how when I'm doing my pelvic floor, it's not abrupt, okay? And that's a really sure sign that you're probably trying to overstimulate with a superficial muscle, and I want you to be in those deeper muscles. So let's just do one or two more. Anal sphincter, perineum, urethra, hold. I can feel this contraction. It doesn't mean I have the deepest, strongest, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lift 150 pounds contraction, but I feel that activation. And then gently releasing back to center. All right, great job. So now we're going to kind of filter up into that tubular core. So from your pubis bone to your sternum, that whole section of your core, front to back. We have a deep muscle called the transversus. We also have our six-pack rectus muscle on top of that. And we have our multifidus, which is through the spine, and our rectors that are the railroad ties next to the spine on each side that kind of bow out at us a little bit. So we're going to find what's called neutral pelvis. That means your pubis bone and your hip bones run parallel with the ceiling. Okay, these three bony landmarks. I'm going to have some space in my lower back depending on what your natural curve is, the curve you were born with. We are not going to smush the curve because we need the curve to also be involved. We need those back muscles to also talk to us. So with a nice broad upper back, I'm going to keep neutral pelvis and simply lift what would be your right leg up off the floor and give a little flex to the foot. So my knee is over my hip. I'm going to take my opposite hand. This is called bracing. And I'm pushing my leg into my hand as I push back with my hand into my leg. And as I do that, I should feel my core, what we call co-contract. Now, this is the great thing about co-contraction. All the muscles work together simultaneously. You don't have to suck in, you don't have to push out. I never told you to push your back into the floor. This is an as-is contraction. This is how our core, we want it to be operating during the day. If someone would push us over, we have to lift things, or we're in a yoga class or a Pilates class or CrossFit or whatever it is we're doing, or just lifting our kids, we want to be able to have that co-contraction. And now let's do the opposite side. So my pelvis is in neutral, opposite hand, maybe it's just fingertips, I have long arms, and I'm going to press and resist without grounding in my upper body and without tainting my pelvis. And that resistance is creating, I'm touching my core, a co-contraction effect. And then release down. Now we're going to do it again, and I want you to try to think about the pelvic floor when you do that co-contraction. So bring it up. Nice deep breath in. Engage the pelvic floor muscles, and now resist. I feel a lot stronger, even more activation, and more steady and stable. And then release that down. Please do not be discouraged or kind of disappointed. This is a core exercise. I am working my core right now doing this. This is a very safe and effective postnatal exercise. So if you just recently had a baby, please start with this. This is amazing for your core. And then again, pelvic floor and resist. Let's hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release it. Now we're going to try a double leg. So feel free, if that's too much, go back to the single leg. I'm keeping neutral, lifting one leg at a time. Nice deep breath in. Cross your hands. Pelvic floor engages. Let's press and resist. Hold 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Gently release the legs one at a time. Just a nice stretch, arc the back. And then gently releasing the arms down to your sides, walk your feet wide, and just gently let the knees steeple together. Now, if you're like me, I kind of misinterpreted my core when I very first started really into exercise, fitness, and yoga, and I ended up kind of really overusing my hip flexors. And so if that's you, please know just to go nice and slow and back off. Those muscles, your whole life up to this point, have been doing a job that's not theirs, and they're not used to letting go. So it may take time for you to slowly tell those muscles that they don't have to stabilize you all the time. That's your pelvic core's job. Your pelvic floor muscles plus your deep core. And so just take a couple deep breaths here. This is a great relaxing position to be in on the floor or even in bed to help release the lower back, help release the hip flexors, and help your body just really decompress. Nice deep breath in and nice deep breath out. And when you're ready, bring the legs together, roll off to your side. Use your top hand to roll into as you press yourself up. Awesome job. When we start to dive into the core, it doesn't have to be scary. There is no shame involved. It doesn't have to be complicated. Let's just start from where we're at, start from scratch with simple exercises and movements like these, or even just the understanding and the awareness as to where our pelvic floor is, what it entails, and what I should be contracting, because in order to make anything happen, we first have to know where those things are. Second, what we're trying to feel for, and finally, third, we will make that happen. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until I see you again, from my heart to yours, from my soul to yours, great job.